This is my Chapter 13 summary. So, Chapter 13 really focused on land and ownership of land. It talked about real property, which is the land and everything permanently attached to it. And then there was an extent of ownership. So, this is water rights and mineral rights. So, water rights give you the legal ability to use water flowing under or across one's property, and then mineral rights are the legal ability to dig or mine the minerals from the earth below the surface of one's land. Talked about the interest in real property. So these are fee simple absolute, which is the right to own and possess the land against all others without conditions. There's the conditional estate, which is the right to own and possess the land subject to a condition whose happening will terminate this estate. And then life estate, which is the right to own and possess the land until one dies. And then future interest, which is the present right to possess and own land in the future. It went on to talk about the estates in land, which is easement, leasehold estate, life estate, conditional estate, and fee simple absolute. It also talked about leases, which is what we often talk about when talking about cars or housing or condos or anything like that. And that's just when an owner gives ownership to a tenant. Then there's voluntary transfer of real property. The execution of the voluntary transfer is it's identified to the grantor and the grantee. And then contains words that express the grantor's intent to convey the property. It identifies the type and percentage of ownership, states the price paid for the property, contains a legal description of the physical boundaries of the property, specifies any easements or restrictions on the use of land, identifies any warranties or promises made by the grantor in conjunction with the consequence. And then the steps in conveyance are execution of the deed, delivery of the deed by the grantor, appearance of the deed by the grantee, and recording of the deed. Involuntary transfer of real property, there's adverse possession, condemnation, and eminent domain. So adverse possession is acquiring ownership of realty by openly treating it as one's own with neither protest nor permission from the real owner for a statutorily established period of time. Condemnation is the process whereby the government acquires the ownership of private property for a public use over the protest of the owner. And then eminent domain is the constitutional right of the government to take privately owned realty property for a public purpose in exchange for just compensation to the owner. There are restrictions on land use. There's restrictive covenants, which are promises by the owner, generally included in the deed to use or not use the land in particular ways. And then there's also zoning, which is government restrictions placed on the use of private property to ensure the orderly growth and development of a community and to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens.